Welcome to the Get Real Podcast, your high-octane boost of full-on reality therapy for personal, business, and investing success with your host, Ron Phillips, because somebody's got to tell it like it is.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Get Real Podcast. Ron Phillips here. We just did a survey, and I've had several people give us some feedback on what they'd want to hear this year. There were several of them that had, several people actually email back and say, I want to hear about this. One of them was owner financing. How does this work? Does it work? Is it a real thing? And how do you make this happen? So I want to talk a little bit about this today, mostly because I was literally over the last 2 to 3 weeks trying to do an owner financing deal with a friend of mine on a little apartment complex. Sorry for the noise there. I had to get out into traffic. I am recording this in my truck, but I want to talk a little bit about owner financing, because owner financing is a really, really cool thing. And there's most of the people who talk about this, they talk about it in creative finance terms, right? So if you were to go get some kind of a course on this, or go to a boot camp or something like that, it would probably be a creative finance boot camp or course or whatever. And creative financing, just in the most simple, basic terms, it just means we're not going to use a bank, right? We're not going to be captive by all of the rules and regulations that banks and the government via banks puts on lending. It's really, really cool. Now, almost everything that people teach in creative financing can work. Let me just state a few cautionary things, okay? Anytime someone is selling educational information, you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. Are they telling you that you can do this in your spare time, 5 to 10 hours a week, and make a ton of money to compensate for the ton of money that you're going to pay them for the materials? If they say that, I have a hard time believing this, because I know people who are in this business. Can you do a deal occasionally if you're working part-time? Yes, you could definitely luck into a deal if you're working extremely part-time, like 5 to 10 hours a week. It is possible. The probability of that happening is very slim, because it's a numbers game, and it's not just a numbers game, but it's a contact game. And if you're spending 5 hours a week, you do not have enough contact points, unless you're lucky, to get a deal. Ron's opinion, having done this for well over 20 years, I know that when I'm doing this, when I first started out, and they told me that I could do this in my spare time, the reason that I thought I can do this is because I had just gotten laid off and I had all the time in the world. Like, if you want to talk about the assets that Ron had, there's 3 things you need to do a deal. You need time, you need money, and credit. I'm going to count that as one. So money and credit. And you need knowledge, specific skill-based knowledge. You can do deals with less than all 3 of those. But if you look at it, you can't do deals if you don't have any knowledge, unless if you're the money behind the deals, you can find somebody with time and a skill set, right? And you can trade those with each other. You can barter. Okay, I have the resources, you have the financial resources, and you have the knowledge base because you went and got it, and you have the time to go deploy it. It is a very, very rare exception that you can have no time, basically no time. 5 hours a week is basically no time, no money, and no significant skill set or knowledge base, and think that you are going to do deals. Those don't jive. Okay. So, and I think one of the main skill sets that people are lacking that is typically not in any one of these courses that people sell is negotiations and sales. If you do not know how to negotiate and you do not know how to sell, it's going to be really, really difficult to make a deal at all, let alone in 5 hours a week. Okay, so I'll get off of my soapbox and let's talk about the realities of owner financing. Okay. Owner financing, creative financing is a real thing. I've used it throughout my career. It works really, really well. But you have to be able to know how to negotiate it. So for instance, my buddy and I were trying to buy this guy wanted to sell his apartment building. I can't remember how many units it was, for $2 million. Okay. Well, the numbers don't work. So, I mean, I can't, one of the units was fire damaged, pretty badly fire damaged. And the guy doesn't have really any financials. Good old boy, just, running it. But in order to go get bank financing, you guys understand, you have to have financials. He didn't even have enough financials for us to build financials for him. Like I couldn't pull any information out of the guy. He's just like, look, if it's a deal, it's a deal. You buy a good old boy, right? Okay. So we wanted to buy this thing. We felt like it was a deal. We had offered him 1.75. Price wise, that worked for him. We started to talk to him about what he needed out of the deal. He needed some cash because he wanted to go and do some other deals, but he didn't need all cash. Now, asking questions and finding out what people want and need in their sale is really important in order to do anything creative financing. Because what you're in essence doing is you're solving a problem through the use of creative terms. So if you think of all of the terms that a real estate deal can have, right, in financing, you have interest rate, you have the amortization schedule, which is how long is this loan going to be? Is it a 5-year loan? Is it a 30-year loan? Is it a 50-year loan? You have the interest rate and you have the price. And then there's a whole host of other things you can do. You could do no payments for a certain amount of time. You can do, you can get partial bank financing. You could do partial owner finance. You could do entirely owner finance. And really what this means, let's work on this deal that we were talking with this gentleman. He said he needed about $500,000 to go do this other deal that he wanted to do. He said, okay, well, would you be willing to finance the balance of this? Yeah, he'd be willing to do that. He doesn't want to finance it for too long. Okay, that's fine. So what most people say is, okay, well, if the guy only wants to finance the property for 3 years and then you put 3 years into the mortgage calculator, well, then the payments don't work. Well, of course they don't work. So what do? Well, you can still put it on a 30-year amortization and you can have a 3-year balloon payment, which means my partner and I would have to fix the burned out unit, come up with some financials by running the property for a little while, and then we could go get bank financing and we could take this guy out within that 3-year period. During that 3-year period, he's going to finance it just like a bank would. Now, as we run the numbers, his rents are too low, right? He's got a burnout unit, so he's missing a unit. The numbers don't work for traditional rates, traditional terms. So what do? Well, what we did was we made an offer to this guy. First round, we made an offer to this guy, 5% interest, 30-year amortization. We'll put $500,000 down and he finances the rest with a 3-year balloon. So that was our first offer to him. He came back with $1 million down. And he really didn't say anything about the finance terms. And to this point, we've been working through a broker, and at this point, brokers get in the way because you can't have really good negotiations and start to understand what the person wants and needs if you got somebody in the middle. So what you need to do is get direct to the seller, and you need to be able to have a conversation with them, trying to figure out, well, okay, so Why did we move from 500,000 to $1 million down on a $1.75 million deal? Did you need more money to put down on another deal? What are we trying to accomplish here? Because I can still work with that. I can still work with $1 million down, but now in order to make the deal work, I really need no payments for an amount of time while I can build the financials, increase rents, and try to make this thing work. Minimum I need is 18 months. So can we do no payments with accruing interest? Can we do no payments, no interest, but a balloon payment? So the words creative finance means you're only limited by your creativity and what the other person accepts as a deal. That's it. Could we do 0 down and loan terms with this guy? Sure, if he would let us do it. Absolutely. Could we do anything in between? Yes. The answer is yes, if we can work a deal with him. Now, why would someone do this? That's a question I get all the time. Why would somebody do that? If they just, they could sell the property outright. Why would they do that? This guy, I think he actually, we didn't get a deal with this guy because the broker wouldn't get out of the way. So we could never actually talk to him face to face. If we had, I think we could have gotten a deal because this guy didn't need the cash. That's why. And there are some tax benefits to him owner financing rather than taking all of the money up front. If you take it over time, the taxes are less. You don't get hit with a massive tax bill. So there are some benefits to a person, especially a person who doesn't need the cash. If somebody's had cash flow for years and they're used to having this cash flow, they can retain the cash flow, eliminate the management that they had on the property, and also get a chunk of money so that they can continue to do their business. And there's any number of other reasons why someone would want to do owner financing on a deal. So I've bought houses from people on creative terms for a myriad of reasons. One of the main reasons for single family homes is that they've moved, they've bought another house where they moved to, and now they have 2 payments and the one house isn't moving. That is a problem. That's a massive problem. And it's a problem that will cause somebody to do things that they wouldn't normally choose, but that still is a win-win for everybody. Okay. If I have 2 mortgage payments and somebody says, hey, I'll make your mortgage payment over here and I'll give you a little bit of money down. If you're relieving my stress of that payment, I might actually think that one through. Right. And people will do that. So don't overlook creative financing. It's really, really good. Now, I'm going to go back to the original thing that I said. This is a podcast. This is not a course on creative financing. You have to have time to be able to do this. Okay. In addition to have time, you have to have some kind of marketing that gets you to the sellers. And I find that the multiple listing service is not the greatest place to find creative finance deals because there's always an agent or a broker in the middle of the deal. And agents and brokers, for the most part, do not understand how to do this. And they are in the way more than they are helpful, even if they're going to get paid, because they don't understand it. And they're not attorneys. They can't act like an attorney. They can't give advice. And so they usually cause more problems than they're worth. So the people that I find who are doing creative finance deals at any kind of a level have a marketing channel where they are marketing to find these sellers on their own. They're the ones who get the most deals this way. And I think if you bought a course, part of the course would be, how do you find these deals? So, creative financing works. Creative financing is awesome. It is very prominent in commercial property deals where owners will carry back part of the down payment, and the commercial banks and commercial lending they don't have any problem with that. So it's just a part of the capital stack going into a commercial deal. You will find, however, that in conventional real estate transactions with banks, they don't like that. So if you're going to do creative financing, it's almost always the creative financing is going to be outside of a bank. It's going to be entirely with the owner. And again, you have to have time to be able to actually go make these deals happen. And I think more than anything else that you have to have is you have to have the negotiation skills and the creativity with those negotiation skills to be able to do deal structures that work and explain them to a seller so that they can understand why it's a benefit to them to do them. And that's why most people don't do them. It's not because it doesn't work. It's not because it's illegal. It's not because of any of those things. It is 100% of the time because the person doing the deals either doesn't know how to use, they're not creative problem solvers, or even if they are, they don't know how to sell the creative solution and negotiate because they have no sales and no negotiation skills. That's the reason why these deals don't work most of the time. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that answers a little bit of your curiosity about owner finance deals. They're awesome. I guess the only piece I left out of that is that once you get that deal, you just need to have an attorney put the docs together for you so that you do it right, so that's legit. And that's really it. They're not that complicated. People overcomplicate this stuff. So till next time, get out there and make something happen.
This has been the Get Real Podcast. To subscribe and for more information, including a list of all episodes, go to getrealestatesuccess.com.